First, they lie. I say this from long, weary experience with the subject. After most unjustifiable shootings by law enforcement officers, first they lie. Today's news has sent me back to the place I really do hate to go, the subject that began my journalism career: police use of deadly force. The first article ever published in the New York Times about the problems associated with police use of deadly force was the first article I ever wrote. That was in 1979. I've been with that subject ever since. In that article, I made the point, as I have made ever since, that most shootings by police are justified. Most shootings by police are legitimately done in defense of life, most of them. But the worst shootings by the police amount to inflicting the death penalty on the street without trial, without evidence, and without a crime being committed. My first book was titled Deadly Force and described a bad shooting by Boston police in which they told the lie that the man the two officers shot in the back and in the back of the head was trying to run them down with his car. That was a lie. That is a lie that police have been using to justify bad shootings since the invention of the automobile. Prior to the age of video, it was almost impossible to prove that police were lying in situations like that. But beginning with the first video of police crime, the beating of Rodney King in Los Angeles in 1991, we as citizens have been given the opportunity with video to make our own judgments about what we see with our own eyes. And we have that ability tonight, thanks to the video shot by an eyewitness today in Minnesota, where one of Donald Trump's ICE agents shot and killed an unarmed 37-year-old woman for no apparent reason that can be found on the video of that shooting. And first, they lied. Kristi Noem, the cabinet member with jurisdiction over the ICE officer who fired his gun for no apparent reason on the video, as you will see in a moment, told this lie in her very first statement about the shooting, which she issued today at 1:13 p.m. She said they were attempting to push out their vehicle and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them. That's a quote. She said, our ICE officers were out in enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those around them. When you watch this video, you will see they were not stuck in the snow. You will see there was no snow on the pavement where the ICE vehicle was. You will see they were not attempting to push their vehicle out of any snow. They were driving their vehicle, and they stopped their vehicle, and they got out of their vehicle. And they didn't get any snow on their boots when they got out of their vehicle because there was no snow on the ground under their vehicle. 2 hours after Kristi Noem said that, Donald Trump told this lie, saying that the dead woman, who the Minneapolis Star-Tribune identified as Renee Nicole Good, was, quote, that she viciously ran over the ICE officer. That is a vicious Donald Trump lie. Donald Trump began that statement by saying, quote, I have just viewed the clip of the event. Not one person who has seen the video of the event has said that the car ran over the ICE officer. The only person to tell that lie is Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is the person who will make sure that there will be no honest federal investigation of what happened today. Donald Trump's Justice Department will not investigate that shooting as a possible murder, as they should, because Donald Trump has already decided the case. And he's decided it with a lie. Kristi Noem has already decided the case. And what Donald Trump said to every ICE officer and every federal officer working for him today in his immigration raids is, I will absolve you of any crime you might commit in the course of doing my bidding, including murder if necessary, and I will do it immediately. In a tweet. At 6:20 p.m., Kristi Noem made her second public statement, and this time She added, no doubt on the advice of lawyers, the very specific language necessary to make this kind of shooting legal if and only if that language is true. Kristi Noem said, quote, ICE agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car and to stop obstructing law enforcement, but she refused to obey their commands. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over it. Well, this appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism, the ICE officer fearing for his life. And here are the key words the Justice Department lawyers no doubt added to Kristi Noem's statement this evening in an attempt to make this shooting legal. Kristi Noem said, the ICE officer fearing for his life and the other officers around him and the safety of the public fired defensive shots. If those words are true, the shooting is legal. But how could that officer be fearing for his life with an unarmed woman who was not trying to run him down with her car? How could he be fearing for his life in the final shots that he was firing at her when he was standing beside her car as it was driving past him? And he was pumping bullets still into her when the car had no possibility of hitting him or anyone else. And he was shooting her with the intent of killing her, which he did. Kristi Noem said that the ICE agent who fired his gun was the only ICE agent on the scene who thought it was necessary to fire his gun. And at the beginning of the incident, he was not the ICE agent closest to the woman in the car. That agent who was closest thought there was no problem. There was no reason to fire a gun. The agent who approached the woman most closely and would have been in the most danger from her did not fire his gun, because he knew he was not in any danger at any point. Kristi Noem said that the shooter was treated at a local hospital. The story in my book, Deadly Force, tells about the 1975 shooting of James Bowden by Boston police, and one of the shooters told the lie that his knee was injured when James Bowden tried to run him down with his car. That was a lie. That was proven in court in 2 federal civil rights trials to be a lie. They lied about the car trying to run down the police officers, and they lied about the police officers' injuries. That is standard practice in bad shootings like this. And when those Boston police officers lied about that, 2 federal juries found that they lied. It's an old lie. Very old police lie. You will see video of the shooter never being touched by that vehicle, and then without any hindrance at all, walking all the way down the street to where the car crashes with a dying woman bleeding to death at the wheel. And then he walks all the way back, and you'll see him walk back on that video, and you will see he does not limp, and you will see he appears completely unharmed. You'll see him grabbing for his phone. You won't see any evidence of him being injured in any way. But what you will see is reason to believe that they are lying. I'm going to show you this video now. It's 1 minute long. It is very painful to watch. I've been studying evidence like this in my entire journalistic career, and I always hate looking at it. So keep in mind the following lies when you're watching this video. First of all, you will see that Donald Trump is lying when he said that the woman behind the wheel, quote, viciously ran over the ICE officer. That's a lie. No one gets run over. No one was run over, not even close. That's the easy part. You will also see the lies of Kristi Noem. You will see as this video begins that the ICE agents were not attempting to push their vehicle out of snow. You will see that the ICE agents were not stuck in snow. You'll see no snow on the pavement. They were not attempting to push their vehicle. You will see that they had plenty of room to drive their car around the Honda Pilot driven by Renee Good if they wanted to. If they wanted to get around her, there was plenty of room in the other lane. You will see what appears to be Renee Good's attempt at some point to get out of their way by driving away. One of the officers apparently was telling her to leave. So driving away would make sense, or attempting to drive away would make sense. And as you watch this video, remember that you live in a country where the Supreme Court decided long ago that law enforcement is not allowed to shoot to kill anyone simply because they are fleeing if you think that she is fleeing. It used to be legal to shoot anyone in most states if they were fleeing from anything, a misdemeanor, anything. Drive through a stop sign by mistake, then flee from police trying to get you to stop, and they could just shoot and kill you in most states. Perfectly legal in this country to get the death penalty on the street for something that you wouldn't get jailed for if you were fleeing. But the Supreme Court changed that in the 1980s. Hollywood did not get the message, so many people still believe, thanks to the poisonous understanding of law enforcement that Hollywood has delivered consistently, that of course police can shoot at any fleeing vehicle for any reason. But they cannot. That's against the law. So if Renee Good was trying to flee or drive away, the ICE agents could pursue her, but they could not shoot her. They could not kill her, but they did. Here's that video that proves just how much Donald Trump lied about this event and exposes the lies Kristi Noem has told about this event so far. We don't yet know, as we never do with videos like this, what happened just before this video begins. Surely there'll be more evidence developing about that over the coming days. We don't know what happened before the video begins. But the video you are about to see shows you that Donald Trump and Kristi Noem seem to think that what's on this video is so unjustifiable. It's so unjustifiable to kill that woman that they have to lie to justify what you are about to see. Here is that deeply disturbing 1-minute video.
You! Shame! 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 Dude, what's happening to her? What happened? Dude. Dude, you shot her! I'm trying to help! No! You shot someone in the face!
All the way back!
You saw the shooter walk all the way down to the scene where the car crashed with a dying woman behind the wheel who couldn't drive that car, the airbag having already blown out. You saw him walk all the way back. You saw him wave to someone. Did he look injured to you? Here is one eyewitness description of what he saw.
Basically, ladies trying to warn everyone ICE is in the neighborhood. Just letting them know, hey, and telling ICE, hey, you're destroying families, whatnot. Stop doing this. Hey, get out of here. Stop that. She reversed so traffic can go by. The pickup truck, gray pickup truck, officer ICE got out and was telling her, hey, well, didn't tell her anything really, just telling her what, I'm going to open up your door and I'm going to get you out. And that's when the shooting happened, and the car took off, and then it sped off and crashed right into the cars.
And here is what the mayor of Minneapolis said today.
So they are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bull. This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed. There's little I can say, again, that'll make this situation better, but I do have a message for our community, for our city, and I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. People are being hurt. Families are being ripped apart. Long-term Minneapolis residents that have contributed so greatly to our city, to our culture, to our economy are being terrorized, and now somebody is dead. That's on you. And it's also on you to leave.
And here's what the governor of Minnesota said today.
This was so preventable, so unnecessary, and I don't know, I hope, maybe we're at the McCarthy moment. Do you have no decency? Do you have no decency? We have someone dead in their car for no reason whatsoever, and I don't want to be right about this, but I said if they do this, they're going to create a chaotic situation where someone innocent's going to get killed. And they did it. And now we hear more political rhetoric. Enough. Enough is enough.
As we can see in the reaction of Minnesota officials, if that shooting today was done by a Minneapolis police officer, there would probably be eventually a charge of murder brought against that officer. We'll be right back. Emily Heller, an eyewitness, told Chris Hayes earlier this evening that a physician on the scene begged to be allowed access to the woman bleeding to death behind the wheel of her car, and ICE agents refused. And no medical help showed up for 15 minutes. Here is a 15-second video of that physician speaking to ICE agents. And once again, this is very disturbing video.
Can I go check a pulse?
No! Back up! Now!
I'm a physician!
I don't
Listen,
care.
we understand. We got EMS coming. I get it. Just give us a second.
We have medics on scene. We have our own medics.
Where are they? Where are they?
You could hear that ICE agent's reply to that physician, which was, "I don't care." Emily Heller told Chris Hayes paramedics had to walk to the car without a stretcher because ICE agents blocked off the street. Emily Heller said they carried her out by her limbs. She was completely limp. They didn't have a stretcher. They carried her out like a sack of potatoes. Senator Ruben Gallego tweeted, "Every ICE officer that did not allow the doctor to render aid needs to be fired. Every professional law enforcement officer is trained to render aid when necessary." Joining us now is Mark Claxton, director of the Black Law Enforcement Alliance and a retired NYPD detective. Also with us, Cedric Alexander. He served as Minneapolis' first community safety commissioner, appointed by the current mayor, Mayor Frey. He is now the interim public safety director in South Fulton, Georgia. Also with us, Rob D'Amico, MS Now national security and intelligence analyst and former FBI special agent. And Rob, let me just begin with you on the federal-state tension here. If this had been a Minneapolis police officer, this would very likely end up as an indictable offense there. But what can the district attorney and the state attorney general do when something like this happens and it's a federal agent involved?
Well, they can charge him, but the U.S. attorney can actually use the supremacy clause to pull it up to federal court. At that point, he can choose to prosecute or he can dismiss the charges. So I think what we've seen, before, I know of agents that have been prosecuted in state court. The one I know got acquitted in state court, but I think it lent more credibility, the fact that he was acquitted in a state court and it wasn't just dismissed in the federal court. But the supremacy clause allows that because then federal agents that are in performance of their jobs wouldn't have to be arrested for doing their jobs. That's what it's meant for. But they can charge them, but the U.S. attorney has an ability to bring it up to federal court and even to dismiss it.
Yeah, and Donald Trump has already shown us today that there's absolutely no chance of the Trump Justice Department pursuing a case like that. Mark Claxton, let me begin with you and your law enforcement expertise and what you see in that video.
What I see in that video is really quite predictable outcome in reality, given the current climate that we have and what's being masqueraded around as immigration enforcement. I mean, and unfortunately, I'm fearful that this is a harbinger for even more tragedies moving forward. And I think it's important that we come to grips with this harsh reality that we're living in different times, and those things that would normally apply and protect us are no longer in existence. And this is a different world, a different existence for law enforcement, where you have kind of the bastardization of law enforcement occurring right before our eyes, where you have individuals who are inadequately, at best, inadequately trained on city streets and operating with apparent impunity throughout communities, and very vulnerable communities there too. So it's really disturbing and tragic. I'm just fearful of what is yet to come.
Cedric Alexander, on Mark's point, this is something that certainly I've been expecting all year since this ramped up. Most people I know in law enforcement have been expecting these kinds of incidents, especially with inadequately trained, overeager ICE agents whose job historically is not to be out on the streets of Minneapolis trying to tell an American citizen woman where her car should be on the road. The inevitability of this, the New York Times reporting tonight that ICE shootings by ICE agents dramatically up this year. Typical year, it's 3. They're way above that already this year. There does seem to be an air of inevitability about this.
You know, the unfortunate part about all of this, Lawrence, is that ICE agents are giving a mission to go out and carry out. And unfortunately for them, they're ill-equipped, they're ill-trained, they're poorly managed and supervised. There are a bunch of individuals running around on the street identifying themselves as federal law enforcement, which they are. However, if you think about over the years, Lawrence, we've been covering stories like this where local police have involved themselves in situations, but we've learned a lot. We learned the importance of building relationships in communities. We learned the importance of training. We learned the importance of providing first aid whenever we shoot, injure, or wound someone. But in this case, and everything that you covered to this point clearly indicates that they did not have the capacity nor the training or the leadership to do anything here correctly. And if we look at the video, clearly look at the video from the angles we're able to look at it based on that space and time that we're looking at this, it certainly does create a great deal of anger and frustration with people across this country. And it should not matter which side of the aisle that you sit on. But when you have the President of the United States, when you have the head of Homeland Security making defenses for something which has not even been investigated yet, that is problematic. And it sends a negative and horrible message to agents across this country that they can operate in a way that is not going to be conducive to the America that we know, or the communities in which we're asked to go out and serve. But the most disturbing part for me is this, is that local law enforcement across this country who have to live in these communities every day, who have to operate in these communities every day, they don't get to move from one part of the country to another. They have to come now behind these ICE agents and build these relationships where already we were struggling, even before this became an issue with ICE, trying to maintain relationships with people throughout this country and across America. This is an event that should not have taken place, but here we are. And at this point, it's my understanding that the state of Minnesota will be conducting an investigation. And I think it's important that investigation take place. But the problem here is going to be the credibility of that investigation, not because the state can't do a credible investigation. I've worked with them before. They do great work. The problem is going to be is that the feds are not going to look at this case and the misuse of authority and the abuse of their positions where someone was killed here today. And also agree with Mark. This, unfortunately, is not going to be the last incident that takes place if we don't do something about this now. We understand they have a mission. That is their mission, whatever they were informed to do. But you still have to carry out this mission in a professional manner. And you have to be able to work with communities and local law enforcement and local politicians, or else it's not going to work. It's going to get worse, and it's going to make it hard for law enforcement at the local, state, and federal level across this country to do their jobs. And I ain't telling you what I think it's going to be. This is exactly what's going to happen if we somehow do not harness this situation and bring this under control, where we cannot have agents from any organization running through communities that they don't know, not familiar with, don't have relationship with, and expect a positive outcome. It's not going to happen.
Rob D'Amico, what would an honest investigation look like now?
Well, they're going to have to do all the ballistics. You know, when I first saw the video, I heard 1 round, and then I saw the video, I thought it was 2, and now I think it's 3. And you, like, when you slowed that, they put that video in slow motion, and you can see each step almost of the agents. One of them, he's actually blocked by the one agent and the thing, but it looks like where his weapon is, they're going to have to figure out which one was a fatal shot. They're going to have to talk to witnesses, and every angle is a bit different.
Rob, let me just interrupt you for a second there, because I think we have a freeze frame in the control room where we can show the shot, the final shot, where the officer is standing beside the car, clearly beside the car. There's no possible threat from the car in the position he's in. And we have a freeze frame that we've gone in on closely to show that it's right beside the door, the door of the car. Okay, never mind. Don't. It's not the video. It's a freeze frame that we tried to get earlier. If we can get the freeze frame from the control room, we'll put that up.
Yeah, I actually sent that to you earlier in the day because I took it and viewed it. And when you look at it, he is 3 feet to the side of the car. His arms are fully extended into the driver's window. And he's obviously not in the path of the car. The first shot, I believe, he was at the quarter of the front. But if you look at the wheels were turned away from him. And if you look at the confrontation that was happening, she's looking out at the agent trying to get in her car. When the agent walks up in front of his car, he's coming over, and then she starts to go forward. She didn't have time, I don't believe, to even see him there. She went forward, turning the wheel. He drew, and his first shot is kind of leaning over into the vehicle. Now, that might not have been the fatal shot. That might have not have missed, because when you look at the placement of the hole in the windshield, it wasn't obviously in the head. The shot from the side, that still frame, that he's fully extended 3 feet away from the vehicle, totally to the side of it, if that's a fatal shot, it's really hard to justify why that second and third shot came from the side of the car. Again, this is from preliminary of what I've seen in the investigation without talking to any witnesses, but I think that's a hard time to really justify that you thought you were in physical danger when you're on the side of a car and you're shooting in directly into the window of the driver.
And Mark Claxton, the actual lethal effect of each bullet, which bullets missed, which bullets hit, are so important, because each decision to fire, each individual decision to fire each one of those rounds has to be justified. It's not just bang, 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 shoot as many as you want.
Absolutely. There has to be justification for each round, because it's a separate decision. Each decision that you make, each time you pull that trigger, you're making a decision to use deadly physical force. And each one of those instances has to be legally justified. I think it's extremely troubling. I think we can all agree that there were horrific tactics being used there too, but I hate to get into a tactical discussion on such a tragic night there too. But I think we should really pay attention to how over the next several weeks we can expect that ICE will be doubling down on their enforcement through our communities in the nation. That there's no indication coming from Kristi Noem or the president himself that there will be any hesitation to further engage communities throughout the country. And as a matter of fact, there are programs that ICE is basically deputizing local law enforcement, providing funds and resources and cars and training and uniforms to local law enforcement in hopes to have local law enforcement agencies involved in these type of operations and providing remote training, as ridiculous as that sounds. So they are actually increasing their numbers and now trying to solicit or include local experienced law enforcement by deputizing them to do immigration enforcement. We are in dangerous and troubling times.
Mark Claxton, Cedric Alexander, and Rob D'Amico, thank you all very much for joining us on this important story. Thank you. And coming up, Donald Trump's previously invisible energy secretary tried to explain today that Donald Trump is not trying to steal Venezuela's oil. That's next with Senator Ed Markey. A big win for Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell with a federal appeals court ruling that Donald Trump cannot cut research funding at universities around the country, including Harvard University and other universities in Massachusetts and elsewhere in the country. It's affirming a lower court ruling that already said that. Attorney General Campbell said universities and research institutions across the country rely on National Institutes of Health funding to conduct groundbreaking research, and patients and families depend on those medical advancements to improve and even save their lives. Without them, the life-saving and life-changing medical research in which the United States, and Massachusetts in particular, has long been a leader, could be compromised. That's one of the many stories Donald Trump doesn't want you to know about as he continues to make noise about his dream of becoming an oil broker for Venezuelan oil, which he claims to want to seize and sell to a world that does not need Venezuelan oil in today's oil market. Some of the people working for Donald Trump know that trying to steal Venezuela's oil doesn't look good. And so Donald Trump's previously invisible energy secretary, Chris Wright, told CNBC today that they just want to use Venezuela's oil money to make life better for the people of Venezuela. No plan was announced to make life better for the people of the United States of America.
We are just controlling the marketing and the flow of funds into Venezuela, so those funds can be used to better the conditions of the Venezuelan people and reduce the risks to the American people of the giant criminal activity coming out of that country. Well, we are not stealing anyone's oil.
And joining us now is Democratic Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts. He's a member of the Senate Commerce Committee. And Senator, I know you know who the Energy Secretary is, but for most of us, we just saw him for the very first time, explaining how no one's trying to steal Venezuela's oil. So I assume in the briefing today that you got from the administration about Venezuela, they explained to you how this oil bank that Donald Trump is going to run will work.
Yes, Secretary Wright has been justifiably in a witness protection program all year long so that their energy and environment policies are not made public. So, yeah, in today's hearing, it was like a kabuki theater. They didn't answer the key questions. How much is this going to cost the American people? How long are they going to be there? What are the boundaries on this adventurism? Is it going into Cuba? Is it going into Greenland? We got no answers to those questions. But the key question, and you're putting your finger right on it, is what did the oil companies know and when did they know it? That goes back to Watergate. Trump said the oil companies knew before the invasion. Donald Trump said that he said to them, get ready. Something's going to happen in Venezuela. The president and Marco Rubio, they didn't feel that they could brief Congress, that they could notify Congress, but the oil companies knew. And there's a good reason why. Chevron thinks it's owed $10 billion from the Venezuelan government. ExxonMobil thinks it's owed $1 billion from the Venezuelan government. Paul Singer, one of the biggest contributors to Donald Trump and to Marco Rubio, purchased Citgo, the American subsidiary of the Venezuelan state-owned oil company, just 2 months ago for $6 billion, which now looks like a filing's basement bargain in terms of how that is going to be an incredibly profitable company. So we have to follow the money. Back to Watergate. What did they know? When did they know it? We got none of those answers today from Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, or any of the other administration officials briefing the entire Senate.
Do they make any attempt to even pretend that that something in this benefits the American people?
No efforts whatsoever. Given the fact that electricity prices went up 13% last year in the United States for all consumers, this invasion of Venezuela is going to do nothing to help American electricity bill paying Americans at their kitchen table. So there were no answers given to any of the oil-related questions. They pretty much ran out the clock almost as a filibuster in terms of how long they took just laying out their version of the story. But when it came to answering tough questions, especially about the oil industry aspect of this, the billion-dollar extraction of contributions from the oil industry for Donald Trump and the Republican Party in the 2024 election cycle, we didn't get any answers. And that's where all of this story is inevitably, inexorably going to go. It's going to go right to the oil industry and its corrupt relationship with the Trump administration.
Senator Ed Markey, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Great to be with you.
Thank you. And coming up, Donald Trump's Justice Department will not succeed in covering up the Epstein files. About Jeffrey Epstein, who was Donald Trump's closest friend for 10 years. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse has a plan. Senator Whitehouse joins us next. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse has the support of one Republican so far, Senator Lisa Murkowski, in demanding an inspector general's investigation of why the Trump Justice Department has failed to comply with the new law requiring the release of the Epstein files. And in the House of Representatives, there is a breakthrough in their investigation of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's sex trafficking. The Democrats on the House Oversight Committee managed to win votes in the committee to issue a subpoena to the executors of Jeffrey Epstein's estate and, more importantly, the Ohio billionaire Les Wexner, who paid massive amounts of money to Jeffrey Epstein for reasons unknown for many years. The top Democrat on that committee, Robert Garcia, issued a statement saying these subpoenas for the executors of Jeffrey Epstein's estate and billionaire benefactor Les Wexner are an enormous step forward in our investigation to deliver justice for the survivors and truth for the American people. Joining us now is Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. He's a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator, the Justice Department is under an order by law to deliver the Epstein files. They have defied the law by 99% so far. What's next?
Well, they've produced a little over 12,000 documents out of over 2 million documents that they say they still need to review and redact. So, you know, they've been at this in theory for over a year. They came into office promising full disclosure of the Epstein files and that thousands of FBI agents were working on this. So the idea that they had to start from zero and could only get 12,000 documents out once they knew that this law was going to be passed and violated the terms of the law, violated even the report requirement for a report 15 days after the production date, suggests something really went wrong there. And the Inspector General is the person best positioned in the Department of Justice to take a look into whether this was incompetence, whether this was deliberate, whether this was misbehavior. What on earth happened to take this top priority of FBI Director Patel and this top priority of Attorney General Bondi and this top priority of President Trump and not be ready when the day came to actually release the documents? So we've asked the Inspector General to take a look into it. As you pointed out, this is a bipartisan request, and it includes the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Dick Durbin. So I think we have a good chance of getting some attention to it.
Over in the House, the idea of a subpoena for Les Wexner, the billionaire who supported Jeffrey Epstein for many, many years financially, for reasons no one could quite understand why he needed anything from Jeffrey Epstein that was worth paying for. That kind of testimony that no one has obtained from someone like that can really be a breakthrough in this investigation.
Yes. And if the Trump administration had been the least bit serious about getting to the bottom of the Epstein scandal, this is the kind of thing that the Department of Justice and the FBI could have been looking into. The tell here is that over a year later, it took Democratic pressure in the House from the minority to get a subpoena issued, rather than this being something the Department of Justice went ahead and did. It's reminiscent of the Senate Finance Committee under Chairman Ron Wyden, ranking member now Ron Wyden, getting the information about the billions of dollars that flowed through Epstein accounts to foreign countries, to women, mysteriously, producing what are called suspicious activity reports that go to the Department of Justice. But under Kash Patel and Pam Bondi, the Department of Justice couldn't figure out that a suspicious activity report might lead to suspicious activity. And so they didn't investigate that either. All of this pulls together into the question that we've asked the Inspector General to look at: what the hell went wrong?
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse gets tonight's last word.